joining us again from the Winnipeg Free Press. Kenny Wiebe, my friend. Oh, you're looking very sharp today, Kenny. Sorry for making you waiting with all that mascot talk.
It's okay. Good to be with you guys. I spent some time in the province. I enjoy a little behind the scenes, behind the curtain activity. I cannot share any similar stories as mascots myself, though.
Don,
well, you can apply. You can apply.
Yeah.
There's a job over it.
Don and I were talking last week, and it's kind of on the heels of things in Calgary and how it's going, and then you see it on social media. You and I've talked about it. Don, you can take it. Maybe ask what we're thinking there.
I am scared to death, Ken, about the future of the Winnipeg Jets right now. I had the unfortunate experience of actually being in the arena the last game they played before they went to Phoenix, because I used to go to a lot of Jets games, as a lot of people did in Saskatchewan, the first time around in the old arena in Winnipeg, and I saw all the tears and whatnot, and I thought at that moment when Bettman was in Calgary a little over a week ago, and he mentioned Calgary might have the best building in the entire NHL by the time the construction is completed, and we've got a brand new building coming in a few years in Ottawa. And I thought of Winnipeg and the situation in Winnipeg, how the cap is going up, and what's the cap going up to, Bernie?
Well, I think it'll be equate to what, 167 million Canadian, roughly. Anyway,
I mean, one of the richest men in Canada, David Thompson, is obviously a big partner in True North with Chipman, and Chipman really cares. Mark Chipman really cares about Winnipeg, wants to keep it there. What do you think right now? I mean, are people in Winnipeg worried about the future of the Winnipeg Jets? Is there any chance that they could just the size of the NHL could outgrow the franchise there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a fair question, but I mean, there's been growth. I know last year there was a lot of chatter, and the attendance has been up. Last year's attendance was up. 2 years ago, it was maybe more of a concern. This year, I think attendance is up another 1,000 or so. So, I mean, hey, don't get me wrong. Going from 95 million US to 125 is no easy task for the smallest market in the National Hockey League. But having known Mark Chipman a little bit since covering the Manitoba Moose starting in 2000, I mean, this is a guy who is very proud of his community. Mm-hmm. He didn't like seeing the Jets leave the first time, and now as someone who is, part of the ownership group, I don't think he wants it to happen on his watch. I would also reiterate what's happening downtown around City Place, the money that's being put into both the arena itself and around the surrounding area. I don't think you're doing that if you're, preparing for something, something negative to happen and for the team to move. So again, could it be tougher for them to be a cap ceiling team? Of course, but I mean, the Jets were a cap ceiling team for a long time, and many people thought they wouldn't be one. So, hey, everyone needs more corporate support. Everyone needs to have the seats filled as good as they can. I mean, the Riders saw that themselves, guys, in the last 5 years or whatever before the Grey Cup. So, I mean, it's always a concern, especially with the Canadian dollar, but I don't think it's as big a concern as maybe it might have been 2 years ago. But I think things have stabilized in the market. But again, let's not forget, we're not that far removed from, almost every Canadian team losing a ton of money during COVID. So, I mean, I think it's always, you have to be cognizant of it, but I don't think it's a concern right now.
I was reading too that when you think about the 1,000 seats or whatever they could sell a game, really at the end of the day, it only equates to like a drop in the bucket. I think it was 5 million that I read or something like that. So that I've always kind of thought that, I'm like, well, even to the NFL, it's like, it's not a gate driven thing. There's other forms of sponsorship. You look at the patches on the jerseys and the helmets now and the rink boards, what the NHL has done with the advertising there. I don't know enough about this, Ken, but how much is the TV deal and just how well the whole league is doing benefit a team like Winnipeg?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a revenue sharing component as well. I mean, the biggest difference from when the Jets left the first time is that Winnipeg Enterprises owned the building, right? So they didn't have the building itself. They didn't have the internal revenues. I mean, the True North owns the building here. So right. They used to not have parking, none of that stuff. So to me, a lot of the issues, it's a much changed market. But again, the numbers are also dramatically different. I mean, when I was going to games as a teenager, you could get tickets at 7-Eleven for $7. So, I mean, you're certainly not getting that anymore either. So big league teams come with big league prices, but it's part of the reason why there's Jets fans in Saskatchewan and some of the surrounding provinces that they're kind of drawing from all over. So, yeah, I mean, I think that they're in a much better position than they would have been in the 90s. That's for sure.
What did you think about trade deadline and what the Jets did, and did anything surprise you there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, obviously the Jets have now pulled within 5 points. It's still a pretty big uphill climb here with 20 games to go. But, yeah, I mean, the Jets, I think, had 10 pending UFAs on the roster, and you had the sense that, at least 3 of them would go. Maybe, probably in a perfect world, the Jets might have been able to recruit or two. One of the things we wondered about with having a little bit of cap space this year, maybe they take on a contract. Again, I'm not saying him specifically, but it, obviously generates buzz in the market. So if they had been able to add a contract like Patrick Laine from a team that was looking to maybe dump salary in order to add a sweetener, and maybe the Jets get if the Jets would have been able to add a bad contract that's expiring in the summer to get another first round pick, I think maybe that's the only other way Kevin Cheveldayoff might have been able to have an A+ grade. But those deals weren't happening. Part of that was double retention, kind of being knocked out to 75 days out. But again, it just wasn't the kind of deal that was being moved. I mean, Logan Stanley was the asset, I guess, if you look at his 9 goals this year, 19 points, willingness to drop the mids like that. They're able to get a top level prospect in Isak Rosen, a guy who needs to be playing minutes. So I think that was a big add for them. Again, there was tons of debate. People thought that Luke Schenn, it would be tough to recoup the assets that they sent out to get him last year at the deadline. Again, depending on how you chop up the deal, able to get a second and a fourth. Now that is due to the retention, and part of that is due to Stanley. But at the end of the day, the Jets did not have a second or a fourth in the 2026 draft. Now all of a sudden they have 7 pick. They didn't get their 26. They did get one back in 27. So I would say overall, B+ probably would be gave as a grade. But I mean, if Rosen turns into, again, we're making the jokes because he's part of Nikolai Ehlers, gets anywhere close to being a player, B+ overall. I think Kevin Cheveldayoff did again, they Nikos that has moved, I think, 4 times at the deadline, but when you only score your first game 50 60 or 61, it's a little bit tougher to get back. So I think they did okay. I'm not the only way they would have added, let's put it, if they would have been able to find their your first round pick this year, because even with this remarkable Jets are on, you can't afford to risk missing out on a top 10 pick if you are not able to have a miracle run and get into the playoffs.
Right.
I'm looking at the remaining schedule, and we talked 20 games. A lot of games, not a lot of games when you're 5 points back. I really want the Jets to push it. And you look, and there's really not a lot of sleepers. Maybe the Rangers, right? Maybe the Blues, the Rangers again. There isn't a lot of holes in this. So you look at like the old senior hockey schedule to be like, well, we can take this night off here. There isn't a lot of those, Kenny.
No, fair. I mean, they are playing, 11 of those against non-playoff teams. So I guess if you're looking at it that way, there would be a little bit more hope. But again, one of them is against Dallas. 2 of them are against Vegas. So there is, there.
Oh, I think we lost him.
Not a lot. It's a cake schedule. That's
Kenny. We're having an internet issue. We're kind of.
Maybe we could just go to the phone.
We're kind of. Well, we're up against the clock here too. I don't know, Colson, if we have time.
I was going to say one thing I liked about Scott Arniel yesterday. Well, Colson tries to get Ken back on the line. They talked about or Scott Arniel, the head coach of the Winnipeg Jets, Barney talked about using more of their speed and trying to get faster. And they traded away Schenn and Stanley, 2 big brutes who are very physical, but the one thing about Schenn and Stanley is they're not overly fast. And, I just like the fact that, they've won 3 games in a row now.
Is he back? Okay, he's back.
I was just going to say, Ken, if you're back here, I really liked Scott Arniel talking about using more team speed yesterday. And they got the youngster coming in, Lambert, who's got some speed. In fact, I think he was on the second power play unit. But maybe you could talk about that, how the Jets want to, they gave up two big, tough defensemen who weren't overly fast, and they're trying to get more mobility into their game.
Yeah, for sure. It's something we've talked about all year. The Jets got older and, subsequently slower this year with the offseason additions. Guys like Nyquist, Nyquist still moves okay, but Tanner Pearson wasn't a burner either, who they moved out to Buffalo as well. The ability to add Brad Lambert, it has been a little bit of a down year offensively if you look at the, the numbers themselves. But, as a guy who grew up in Saskatchewan, he's a guy who has great skill. It's just now it's time for him to put his, plant the flag and say, hey, I'm an NHLer and you need to play me more. To this point, he just didn't do that in the American League this year. I know there's some people that would have said, yes, give him a chance. He did get his first NHL goal this year. His ability to add speed is certainly helpful for the Jets lineup. Again, when they lost Nikolai Ehlers, they lost Brandon Tanev, they lost Mason Appleton, Rasmus Kapari. These guys are all fast skaters. So Lambert is a guy who can provide some complementary offense as long as he is playing a trustworthy defensive game, which is something he's really worked on this year. And again, Roseanne is a guy who can really skate and move and shoot the puck. So certainly those guys are helping on that front. But yeah, Jacob Bryson is also a mobile puck mover that is a competitive guy, but he's about 5'9". So it's so interesting, guys, right? So you're going into the hardest part of the year, the meat grinder portion of the schedule, and the Jets are playing faster than they have all year, but they also don't have some of that veteran savvy kind of going out the door here. So it's going to be interesting to see how they can handle the grind, but they're also an experienced team that has been in this situation before. I'm not saying Anaheim's going to fade, but teams that are in right now, Seattle, 1 good year out of 4. They haven't really been the team that's been chased and that's having pressure applied. San Jose Sharks are an unbelievable story. Macklin Celebrini at the Olympics, tremendous, but these guys haven't had any pressure for about 4 years now. They've had the full teardown. How are they going to respond? Nashville just traded a couple of core players. Yes, they're fourth liners, but big part of their identity. How are they going to hold up during the stretch? And it's funny, Barney, you mentioned St. Louis. Suddenly you look up, St. Louis sold their captain, but they've won 4 in a row somehow, right? This is the time of year where the NHL is not making sense. You have teams that are supposed to be winning are kind of on cruise control. You've got other teams scratching and clawing just to get in. But the addition of speed is a big one. Also, guys, Connor Hellebuck, we saw what he looked like at the Olympics, and he is dialed in at a level that we have not seen for the majority of this year, whether that's health related or the poor structural play in front of them. The Jets they've found their structure, and not surprisingly, their top netminder and reigning Hart Trophy winner is looking like a guy who could put them on their back. And again, we can't not mention Mark Scheifele. Mark Scheifele, Olympic snub, yes, but on pace now for 100 points. This is a guy who everyone's saying, oh, well, he's about to turn 33. Best days are behind him, except he had 87 points last year and is on pace for 100 this year. And he just had his fifth 30-goal a year. So, and getting Josh Morrissey guys back is such a huge addition. Canada really missed him in the gold medal game. He just became the all-time franchise leader in points by defenseman, passing his old partner Dustin Byfuglien. So they've got a lot of motivation, and Kyle Connor, having been scratched for 4 games at the Olympics, he's playing a pretty tenacious two-way game right now as well. So there is some reason for optimism around these parts, and it'll be interesting to see what their run gets them in this last quarter of the year here.
That's why these fingers are crossed, because I know a couple guys, we plan a trip to the Jets for a playoff game, which was easy. I'm like, well, we'll go to Silver Heights, and it's going to be odd. You go to casino. And then now it's like, I don't know if that's going to happen, boys. But Kenny, up against the clock. Sorry about the internet problem here. We'll have to have you on again in a couple of weeks, and then circle back on this. Excellent. You look sharp. Enjoy the night.
My pleasure. Great to be with you guys, and have a great night here. Cheers.